It's Frank here with 4D Honeybee on October 1st. Just going to check hive number 1 over there, the smaller hive. That hive has been very unhealthy and dwindling. And I checked it last week and it looked like it was starting to be robbed by the healthy hive over here, hive number 2, the bigger hive. The bigger hive has a top feeder on it, that's why it's got that, little honey super on it. It's actually just housing a top feeder. I elected not to feed the weak hive because I pretty much knew that it was being robbed by the strong hive anyway. There's very few bees left in that hive, but what I'm going to do is shake those bees into the grass in front of the strong hive and hope that they either swarm and have a fighting chance somewhere else, or that they do get accepted into the strong hive and survive the winter. Very few bees left in there, as I mentioned, and I'm going to take that hive away because they certainly won't make the winter as they are now. So thanks for joining me, and we'll get some more video in a sec. Okay, so we'll do an inspection of this weak hive here and then kind of decide how I'm going to get rid of the bees and transport the hive away from this location. We did treat it for mites, and there's just, ever since the mite treatment, which was a couple of weeks ago, it's October 1st, the mite treatment was a couple of weeks ago, and there was a great deal of mortality. It was a combination of the drones being killed off. The mite treatment probably killed off a number of bees, but then I'm pretty sure that this hive was attacked and robbed by the healthy hive. You can see there's still some mortality here. And there's still some bees in this hive. There's some honey up here too, so I won't eat this honey because it has the mite treatment involved in it. So. But what I might do is just check out these frames, and if there are some not so good frames in the strong hive, I might transport them over. So let's inspect every frame here and see if this hive is doing as bad as I think it's doing. First frame, very good sign of not much happening. Next frame is chocker block full of honey, looks like. Yeah, it's got a lot of good honey in it. So I'll keep this frame aside. I probably should have taken this frame out before I treated them for mites, and that way I could have taken this honey. There's some more honey in there on other frames, but overall I just didn't want to interfere anymore with this hive and just kind of let nature take its course over the last couple of months, because it struggled badly and they seemed to not know what they were doing or what they wanted to do, because they kept replacing their queens. The first queen this hive had was amazing. She was building the stuff out, and for the first 3 or 4 weeks the hive was really doing well. But ever since day one, like from when it was a nuke, the bees were building supersedure cells and queen cells, and I kept destroying them, thinking that it just had to do with the fact that they were a new nuke. But they just kept right on going. Oh, you know what? Here I clearly see a little yellow jacket. That's probably what's doomed this hive. This is the second time now that I've seen this yellow jacket in there. And last time I thought that maybe it came in the hive after I opened it, but this one was definitely in the hive when I opened it. So that can't help. That might have been a contributing factor. Again, without a queen, maybe they couldn't defend themselves. I haven't seen many more of them, but we'll keep opening this up. We're getting, the next few frames have a pretty good concentration of bees, so we'll see just what they're doing. You know, it's just so bizarre. It's here, it is October 1st, and there's still bees emerging from cells. That one looks like it's dead anyway, but there's another yellow jacket, see? Just seems to be maybe robbing away. Now we're getting into the frames that have more bees in them. But again, I mean, in the grand scheme of how much bees should be in this hive, there's just not very many here. So have a closer look at this one, see if I see any more of those Yellowjackets, but I don't see any. And you can see this frame, there's just not even any honey in it. It's a nothing frame. So I'm going to drop these in the grass in front of this next hive. And hope that they'll do okay. The reason why I'm not, one subscriber slash YouTube friend, PJ, gave me some really good advice to try to merge the frames by using a newspaper method, which sounds really, really smart. The reason why I'm not doing that is because, another Yellowjacket. The reason why I'm not doing that is because I've got the top feeder on there right now, and it would be complicated to do that with the top feeder on because there's probably, you know, a few hundred bees in that feeder right now. And here, I mean, there's just going to be, you know, 1,000 or so bees that that I would be relocating anyway. So it just seems like, again, sort of planning everything out to disrupt the strong hive as little as possible. I elected just to brush and push these bees into the grass there, and really just let them fend for themselves in the end. Getting to the frames here that have the most bees on them, and then the rest of the frames are pretty much empty. But you can see it's still, I mean, you know, a couple hundred bees, maybe? Certainly not enough to make it through the winter. And the honey stores on these frames aren't terrible. This is a pretty decent looking brood frame, and they are filling it up with nectar, as you can see. But there's certainly not enough for them to make a go at it for the winter. This side here barely has any nectar in it at all. So I'm going to speed up this inspection because the bees are trying to get back into their home hive, which I don't want. So you can join me back when I get close to finishing the inspection. Okay, so I've gotten rid of the top brood box pretty successfully. It's in the truck, and very few bees tagged along. And yes, I'm definitely seeing more Yellowjackets in this bottom brood box, so it'll be interesting to see how many there are. But that's one right there, and that's one right there. And again, it could just very well be that that the Yellowjackets, the wasps, decided to move in here because there's no queen and no organized defense for the hive. So this is just my first year doing this, but it makes perfect sense that this hive was very vulnerable to being robbed and taken over. And you can see just dead bees everywhere, right? So it's a good sign that that is the case. And this, thankfully, is my my peaceful hive. It's not the ornery hive. The next one over is the nasty one. If I was doing this to them, there'd be a lot more action around my head. But these ones aren't that bad. But they're just not that healthy either. Maybe those things go hand in hand, who knows. And just nothing happening on these cells, and you can actually see that it definitely has been robbed, because look at how these cells that were sealed honey have been opened up. And that is probably the work of those Yellowjackets, as you can see one right there. Or maybe it's a combination Yellowjackets and the Hive beside. But the more I'm looking into this, the more I'm thinking it is those nasty little critters right there, that Yellowjacket, that is the main culprit for at least stealing honey, as he's doing right now. Very few bees with, see there's still some cat brood, but you can see that that brood is all dead, so it may have been, maybe that the brood has been stung by those Yellowjackets, or it could just be that it's dead for some other reason. I mean, there is some nectar stores that they've been building in here, but a hive this week, there's no way it could build up any kind of decent stores when it's being robbed by Yellowjackets. Now the number of those wasps, I haven't seen that many, right? I've seen maybe a handful, maybe 10, 15, 20. But who knows what damage 10 or 20 Yellowjackets can do on a weak hive, right? So then don't even have to knock bees off these frames because there's none on them, basically. There's dead bees all over the place, and even still some drones in here. And you can see bees that were dead coming out of the cells there, so that's really interesting. So I'll move this frame by frame over here behind the box, and then I'll move the actual box. The box still has a few hundred bees in it for sure, but I'll push them all into the grass and hope they make a better life for themselves. And then that's the end of hive number 1, unfortunately. So that is the death of my hive number 1, unfortunately. It looks like it was just not meant to be with this hive. They were never happy with their queens, and then they just stopped producing. And then the last straw seemed to be that they were robbed by Yellowjackets. I probably counted only about 15 or 20 of them, but obviously that's enough to do damage to the hive. Looking at the bottom board here, nothing really out of the ordinary that I can tell by it. Not sure what this big glob is, but you know what? It actually looks like it is maybe a spider nest, that type of thing. So other than that, I've put all these bees back into the wild in the hope that they will either migrate into my healthy hive or maybe swarm and make a go at it in the wild, but I highly doubt that that's likely. It's pretty much focus on the good hive now and try to make a go at it with that one for the winter. So that's it for that hive. Unfortunately, puts my mortality rate at 50% in the first year, which is what they say to expect. So that is beekeeping. You can see over here at the healthy hive, sorry for the shakiness there, that those are the new the bees from the dead hive, if you will. And they're hanging around there, so who knows? Maybe they will be accepted, and maybe they will get in and strengthen that hive for the winter. Next thing I'm going to do is have a look at that hive, just to make sure they're feeding okay. But I won't be, being that it's overcast today, October 1st, it's still above seasonal, but these bees get really nasty when they're not out foraging. So I'm going to have a quick look at the feeder there, and then that's it. But that concludes the death of my hive number 1. Sorry, Queen Isabel. We made a go at it, but it didn't work out.